Is that something you'd rather see guys actually vacate rather than try and do both at the same time?
Unless you think you can, defend your title. Listen, if there's a guy that thinks he can do it and wants to defend both belts and has accomplished all these great things, I would have no problem with it. But you're going to be busy.
Alright guys, so recently there's been some speculations that the UFC doesn't want simultaneous double champs anymore. For example, recently Zhang Weili went on an interview after her win over Tatiana Suarez, and she talked about the possibility of her moving to the flyweight division, but apparently the UFC advised her that if she was going to make that move, they would prefer her to stay up in that weight class and forget about the strawweight division.
Would you like for your next fight to be at 125 against Valentina?
Yeah, anything works. If we ended up in the flyweight, then I don't have to go through so much pain to cut weight. Why not?
Would you be one of those fighters? Some people say that when they go up, they don't want to come back down. If you go up, would you go back to 115 or would you stay at 125?
Yeah, UFC kind of want me to, if I actually go up to 125, just kind of stay in there, don't move again. But that's something I need to consider myself.
And I actually like this from the UFC. I don't really like having simultaneous double champs. One of the reasons why I don't like there being simultaneous double champs is because it's a lose-lose situation for the champion in the higher weight class. Like Islam Makhachev, for example, he goes out there and he beats Volkanovski. In the first fight, it was competitive, and some people still think that that fight was a robbery, but Islam Makhachev clearly run 3 rounds, if not 4. And people are still out here discrediting him for having such a competitive fight with one of the best fighters in the world, and they hide behind the fact that Volkanovski is a featherweight to take some shots at Islam, and then in the rematch, Islam goes out there and he puts him out, and people are still like, oh, well, you just beat a featherweight. That's not really that impressive. Fight someone in your own weight class, even though it wasn't his choice to fight Volkanovski again. It was because Oliveira was hard sparring a week before a title fight with no headgear, which makes no sense, but that's not Islam Makhachev's fault. That's just the circumstance of his opponent just not really taking full responsibility for his health and safety a week before the fight. And then it was kind of the same thing for Jan Blachowicz when he took on Israel Adesanya, maybe not to the same extent as it was for Islam, but a lot of people are saying, well, Adesanya was just too small. He's a middleweight, and Jan, he was just too big for him. But that's a valid win as long as both fighters sign the contract and agree to fight at that weight. It's fair game, but people just, they don't look at it that way. Another reason why I don't like fighters trying to get 2 belts at the same time is because it can straight up ruin some fighters' career. Like, look at Tony Ferguson. He was supposed to fight for the lightweight title after he beat Kevin Lee and became the interim champion, but Conor McGregor was the undisputed champion, and the UFC never promoted Tony Ferguson to undisputed. They did that before with Robert Whittaker when George St. Pierre vacated the belt. They made Robert Whittaker the undisputed champion, but with Tony Ferguson, they didn't do that. And unfortunately for him, injuries and father time caught up to him, and eventually he just wasn't the same fighter that he once was, and he never became the undisputed champion. And even fighters like Mateusz Gamrot and Justin Gaethje, they could have had their shots at undisputed title against Islam Makhachev, but the UFC wanted to make another super fight, a champ versus champ fight, Volkanovski versus Makhachev 2. But that not only ruined Volkanovski's career, but it ruined Justin Gaethje and Mateusz Gamrot's chances at becoming champion. Now, they're more Mateusz Gamrot. He's in a position where he most likely won't get a title shot at all in his career. And if Justin Gaethje gets flatlined by Dan Hooker after getting flattened by Max Holloway, like, that's going to be tough for him to come back up that ladder. But he could have had a title shot after beating Dustin Poirier. They could have just made Justin Gaethje versus Islam Makhachev in October instead of Oliveira, or have Gaethje be the backup fighter. But Mateusz Gamrot was actually the backup fighter, and for some reason he didn't get the call. Instead, they went with Volkanovski, even though he wasn't prepared at all. Well, Mateusz Gamrot was prepared, but that just ruined both these guys' chances at becoming a champion. And the last reason why I don't like fighters becoming double champ simultaneously is because I personally think that dominating one weight class and then vacating your title and moving up to a different weight class and doing that again proves that you're an all-time great, and it doesn't matter who's in there with you. Your skill set is going to make the difference, and it's basically the definition of the pound for pound, and the pound for pound is like once you reach that status, you're like an all-time great for sure. You're beating guys who are bigger than you or the same size as you, and you're beating smaller guys who maybe were outmatched physically by you, like guys like Aljamain Sterling and Alex Pereira might be examples. Like, especially for Aljamain Sterling, he was out grappling and just too big for some of these guys in the bantamweight division, and Pereira, he was really powerful and again a little bit too big for those guys in the middleweight division, but then they moved up and they started having success, and that shows that, okay, you're not just having success because of your size, you're having success because you have world-class skills that separates you from the pack, and it doesn't matter who's in front of you, you're always going to find a way to win. And I feel like that's what makes great fighters. But let me know your guys' thought down below. Thank you guys for watching. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.